schools. When the problem is not the kid, the problem is the school should be focusing more tutoring, et cetera, on the kid, right? Rather than us dosing the kid so that they can focus in school. The problem isn't necessarily the kid, and Adderall doesn't cure your focusing problem, right? But he's saying, look, I have to react to what the patient says, and if the patient says I have ADHD, boom, you can walk into a script, right? Not great. Yes?
What happens if a kid actually does have ADD or ADHD, like they severely do?
Okay. So here's a challenge, all right? What if they do? So DSM, basically, I can actually bring one in and show you, right? It describes symptoms. Now, those symptoms could come from a variety of things, and some of them could be lessened through skill building. How do you pay attention? What do you focus on? Because I can tell you ADHD people, the person who founded my program with me, she was ADHD. And her theory was this. There were two kinds of people. Now, you've got to watch out when you hear a theory that says there's two kinds of people in the world, right? The farmers and the hunters. Okay? So the farmers, right, sit in class, and they're the ones that, farmers plant stuff in the ground and they watch it grow. So it requires a bit of patience. And school is based for farmers. But what if you're a hunter? You're out in the woods, you're out, waiting for stuff, but it doesn't matter that, nothing's coming. You're out there waiting, and so you're focused. So ADHD doesn't mean you can't focus. It means you're selective in your focus. Okay? And you might not be the kind of person who likes to sit around. You got energy, right? So we used to call this attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So do we need less hyperactive kids or more hyperactive teachers? Or do we teach kids to focus? Okay, when you're bored. Oh, you're easily bored. Okay, let's teach you how to deal with your boredom without a drug. Because remember, Mark says, pills are not skills. It takes people to teach people skills, right? So essentially, I see your question. Essentially what happens is a side effect of the amphetamine is you can focus. Okay? If you want. Now, you could do it without the drug, but we don't teach people how to focus. All right? So the drug makes them focus. But the drug also has other side effects besides focusing, which may or may not be all that great in the long term, right? So we're just going for short-term fixes. And the docs who are trained to know this saying, okay, yeah, you got the symptoms, but is this really going to be helped in the long term?
Why are so many doctors prescribing it?
Well, there's that, there's big pharma, there's all kinds of different things. Yes?
What I was saying goes right along with what you're about to go into. My mom was diagnosed with severe depression and all sorts of labels. Basically, she tried to kill herself from the time she was in high school all the way up until a couple years ago. Multiple attempts. Tried to jump off the Ferry Street Bridge, tried to drink herself to death. She tried to swallow a bottle of pills when she was in high school. And all these years that she's had all these problems, not one doctor had even suggested looking for a different avenue other than medications. And even though none of the medications were working, even in the slightest bit, not one doctor suggested anything else. And she finally went to a specialist, and she had to pay money that her insurance company was covering all these medications that her doctors were giving her that made her actually much, if you want to label, feel crazier. She felt crazier on them than when she did off of them. And the problem with going on and off is there's really dangerous time period when you get on and off or switch, which just heightens everything.
Right.
But she went to a specialist, and he said, well, let's do a range of check and see what's out of balance. They did a food allergy test. She has such a high level of allergy to egg whites, dairy, things like that, that he said she might as well have been drinking poison every day. And she's been off of egg whites and dairy and a couple other things for like 2 years now. She's gone through some of the most scary things she's ever gone through in her life, and she hasn't tried to commit suicide. She hasn't been expressing that she's severely depressed. She's operating at a normal level. But I mean, the doctors, just suggested drugs and then sent her home. They didn't check in with her. They didn't see how they were working. They just kept giving her new prescriptions because, that's what's advertised and that's what's paid for. And the way the whole system works isn't for the benefit of the person in the outcome in the long run, which would be testing for things that aren't covered, which the patient would have to pay for. A food allergy test, it was like $200. Why can't they cover that instead of all these expensive drugs? You know what I mean? All of those things, and if someone would have done that in the last 20 years, she could have suffered a lot less, and she could have potentially died. I mean, she tried so many times. I'm amazed she's still alive. When I was younger, I came to terms with my mother will never see my child. She won't live through it. It's not possible. And now I have a kid, and she knows my kid, and she's doing much better. And now that I'm getting older, I actually started experiencing the dairy stuff, and I've been off it for 6 months and lost 45 pounds, and all of a sudden feel much better, and it runs in our family. My daughter's already starting to show signs. She's only 2. So I mean, it's a little bit depressing as to how the system works and what's being given out first and what's so easily handed to people over what the real problem is.
Yeah, and again, with the whole food allergy thing, we actually didn't start even looking for that until easily the last 20 years. Yeah. And I'm being charitable saying that. Right? So most of the time we weren't even looking at the fact that people could be allergic to certain foods or additives in foods, or that ADD could actually be caused by an allergic reaction to common chemicals found in food. Right? Not a problem in the person, a problem in their environment that, again, this is, for example, like that artificial sweetener aspartame. That was originally insecticide. Okay, and the company that made it decided, if we put it in lower concentrations as an artificial sweetener, then we can get rid of our stocks, because it was, stopped as an insecticide. And they had all this chemical, and now it's in your food supply. The insecticide, aspartame. So what if you have a nervous system reaction to it? Who's going to check? Right? Because it's in everything. Or in lots of things. Who's going to check if you have a food allergy? You're allergic to wheat or egg whites or dairy. If it doesn't kill you, it doesn't necessarily make you stronger, they're not going to look for it. When you're talking about losing weight, that is an immune system reaction. You're swelling up from inflammation. Right? But you would never think to check your food supply or an allergy to food supply unless your doc was hip enough to do that. And they've only started getting hip relatively recently. That's why you're seeing all this gluten-free this and GMO that and all that kind of stuff, the concerns for those things. Okay, maybe I should bring my own projector. All right, I'll show you. I'll have to draw this. Here's a chart. I could run it for the PC too. Too late. Alcohol. We were talking about neurotransmitters the other day. Okay? Alcohol is a drug. drugs come in doses. I'm doing consumer education here. Okay? So alcohol is a drug. Drugs come in doses. Now, George H.W. Bush, that is Bush 1, and I agree on the point that alcohol is a drug. Augie Bush, the 4th, that is the head of Anheuser-Busch, wants you to think of alcohol as a lifestyle choice, not a drug. Okay? Because if you react to it as a lifestyle choice, then you will follow his pattern for use, which keeps him profitable. Okay? Here is a level of what corporate law is. A corporation, it is illegal for a corporation to take any action that does not produce profit for shareholders. Illegal. Okay? They can only indulge in messages like drink responsibly as part of a PR campaign. If you actually drank responsibly, you would actually drink less. So for example, here's a statistic taken from the census. If every person in America between the age of 8 and 80 drank 4 drinks a week, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, alcohol consumption would drop 40%. Now, they don't want to do that. They don't want you to do that. Now, if you are not the typical college student that drinks 3.5 gallons of beer a month, somebody's drinking your share. Okay? So, the system is basically based on overconsumption. This is what I was saying. If you ate half a bottle of aspirin, we would clearly see that as a suicide attempt and act accordingly. How come drinking a case of beer isn't seen as a suicide attempt, but a lifestyle choice? How did that become normal behavior? Now, people think that I'm like fanatical. I'm just saying, look, Anheuser-Busch kills more people than the cartel. And there's statistics to back me up on that. Oh, since I'm on a roll. Every day, more people die from legal drugs than died at 9/11. That's from the year 2000 stat. Surgeon General, basically, what did you die of? Okay? Cancers from smoking, cirrhosis of the liver. I'm not talking about accidents, murders, etc., etc. I'm talking about drugs used the way the manufacturer wants you to use them. Okay, so tobacco, alcohol, pharmaceutical drugs. Heath Ledger. Hello? 100,000 people died from bad side effects using pharmaceuticals the way the doctor prescribed them. Heath Ledger wasn't a drug addict. He just basically was tweaked out from playing the Joker, as any sane human being would be. Couldn't sleep, had nightmares, was prescribed drugs that had a bad reaction, boom, he's dead. Not a drug addict. 100,000 people joined him. Okay, the combination of all legal drugs combined as a daily rate is close to 3,000 people. A day. Every day. Illegal drugs, 40. Why is the war on illegal drugs when legal drugs are, the body count is higher? Okay. So you gotta, I'm saying there's traps, right? It's there. And the traps are obvious if you know how to look for them. So, alcohol's a drug, drugs come in doses. So, using the same science, because you know I'm all about the science, using the same science that calculates a dose of aspirin, what would a dose of alcohol be? Let's sketch out the parameters. I know you know from your mom. Here's how it goes. Somebody had a hand out there? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask if it was like OLCC statute.
Nope.
The way that they...
Nope. Nope. Well, okay, let's look at consumer education. Right? Y'all know what legally drunk is, right? What is that? 0.08. Okay. How many doses is that for you?
It depends on the person.
Okay. No. All right. I'm going to focus on you. How many doses is that for you?
I can't answer that question because I actually took a breathalyzer, like, legitimately with the police after having a beer, and I blew a .00.
Okay.
So I couldn't tell you what .08 it would be.
Okay. Cool. Good. Let's break that down. So you know it's 0.08, right? So here's the thing. Everybody knows that, but they don't necessarily know what that is for them. Why not? Shouldn't the dosage be on the bottle just like aspirin?
Breathalyzer be posted at the door.
Okay, so here well, no, let's go even more basic. You see, because I'm all about empowerment, and I'd rather have the knowledge be in your head than in a machine. Right? You know how much you weigh? I mean, I weigh myself. Right? You know how much you weigh. Okay? You know what your quote-unquote medically defined ideal body weight is, too, as well, right? And you know how much you drank. So let me give you what the dosages are, relatively speaking, all right? So if we were going to, if this is legally drunk, all right, a safe dose of alcohol, now this is safe, has parameters. If you are 21, not pregnant, not on certain psychoactive meds or pain meds, not having mental illness that's made worse by alcohol, okay, so sketch those things out.
Is there anybody left?
Yeah, tons of people. Tons of people, okay? Oh, genetic predisposition. You want to watch out for that. If there's alcoholism in your family, you want to kind of watch out for that. All right. If you look at those conditions, then the safe and effective dose for alcohol is 0.02. At this dosage, you still have access to memory, you still have judgment, you still have coordination. Now, 0.02 for me is a beer. Right? And for most people, if they're basically talking about, well, I'm drinking for social lubrication to be sociable, just having a beer with friends, rather than some beers, or a case, or a six-pack, whatever it is, right? 0.02 is good. But most people don't stop at that, because they aren't taught the following information. Are you working yet? I really must speak with my tech crew. This is unacceptable. Okay. All right, so one dose is 12 ounces of 2 to 3% beer, 7 ounces of 5+ beer. Okay, microbrews. So you want to look for that. Difference between Bud Light and Bud is calories. They have the same amount of alcohol. No, they're about 2 to 3 point beer. Okay, so that's beer. Shot of distilled spirits, 1.5 ounces. And 4 to 5 ounces of regular wine. And if you're a devotee of Night Train, MD 2020, Thunderbird, Ripple, whatever, fortified wine, it's marked such, 3 to 4 ounces. No, you didn't. Undo. Can undo? Wow.
Did you go back?
No, it doesn't allow me to do that. It's all right.
1.5 ounces.
Well, yeah, I was basically trying to go.
What was the one?
Anyway.
I don't know. How much was the
12 ounces of regular beer, 7 ounces microbrew, shot, and 4 ounces, this is wine, 4 to 5 ounces table wine, 3 to 4 ounces if it's fortified. Yeah. They put more alcohol in it.
Is that where it says percentage alcohol volume or something?
Yeah. Okay, so for example, here's how alcohol works. Sorry to be graphic, but I want you to know how it works. You know, grapes look cloudy. That's because grapes have these microorganisms on them called yeast. What yeast do is they eat sugar and they poop alcohol. Okay? When this happens at room temperature, they eat enough of the sugar until the alcohol kills them at about 19 or 20%. That's why table wine is about 19 to 20%. Okay? In order to get stronger alcohol, that is, distill it, you boil the wine under pressure. The water boils out and the alcohol is concentrated. Therefore, wine, from wine grapes, you get brandy. Or from potatoes, you get vodka.